Good morning, all students who are connected to this session. It is the view of the School of Graduate Studies that this session will be very beneficial to you, and it will remind you of what is expected of you, or what the skills and the competencies you need to have to help you write your thesis without difficulty. We are grateful to Iris for taking the initiative for this session, supported by the graduate school. It is my wish and view that you will pay attention, contribute effectively, and ask questions after the presentations. We look forward to having a lot of questions and contributions from graduate students after the session. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Director of Graduate Studies, for welcoming the students. There are 63 participants in total. Today, we are fortunate to have Professor Alois Idiogu lead this discussion. Although we have put his profile on the university's website, it is important for me to say something brief about him. For students who are not on campus, Prof. Aloy is with us at the University of Education here as a visiting professor from the University of Nigeria. He is an expert in management education, specializing in human resource management. He's had his education in several places, including Nigeria, UK, and the United States. And his academic career cuts across many disciplines, including English, literature, literary studies, educational planning and administration, advanced research methods, entrepreneurship education, sociology, organization behavior, and human resource management. His academic degrees include a BA in English education, an MA in organizational management, MEd in administration, MSc, and PhD in management. He is a member of so many professional organizations, including but not limited to the British Academy of Management, Fellow Chartered Institute of Administration, Nigeria Academy of Education, Nigeria Institute of Security, Nigeria Institute of Educational Administrators and Planning, and a member of the Common Council of Educational Administration and Planning. But he's contributed immensely in various aspects of education in not only Nigeria, but the world over. He has written over 24 books and more than 112 articles that he has published in reputable journals. Besides, Prof has mentored over 30 PhD students. So that tells you that Prof has a lot of understanding and experience in training PhD and MPhil students. And so we are in good hands that Prof has agreed to help our graduate students. And so I want to encourage all graduate students who are here and those who are yet to join to pay particular attention to this man of international repute who has agreed to help us understand our research the process. Of course, like Prof. Kankam said, he is going to give us a brief, an outline of what we are expected in our PhD journey, but he has a lot on his list that we can learn from. So let us give him the attention and we can benefit the most from him. So Prof, you are most welcome to this program, and your audience, the students are waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, my darling colleagues, learned colleagues,
good morning,
ladies
Prof.
and gentlemen. So I hope our graduate students, wherever they are, will be able to listen to us and hear us, and perhaps see some of the slides, wherever they may be. I want to start by thanking the organizers of this seminar series. And we are hoping that this topic which we are about discussing today thesis writing and what goes into it, that the participants will be able to, that is, if they listen very well, they should be able to clearly identify the difference between an essay, a book, an article, and a thesis. For some time now, many people do not seem to understand that there's an ocean of difference between writing a book and writing a thesis. One can write a book in 1 week. Those who are gifted linguistically can produce a book in a month, and it will be circulated worldwide. But that is not so with thesis writing. And I hope that by the time we go through all the nitty-gritty of thesis writing, our participants, our beautiful graduate students, will be able to appreciate the enormous responsibility of someone who is engaged in thesis writing. I do hope too that our participants will be able to appreciate that thesis writing is a distinguishing mark of scholarship. From your thesis, when you finish your program, your thesis is one of those things that you can show the world, that everybody who wants to know and assess your level of scholarship will look onto. In other words, it is a lifetime type of activity, which when you finish it, you should be able to always through your life say to God, thank God for this. We're hoping that at the end of this session too, our participants should be able to understand a clear understanding of the rubrics, the rules, the regulations, the do's and the don'ts, and the challenges of thesis writing. And of course, finally, I hope that when we finish this session, our participants would now have the confidence, will now have the enthusiasm, will now be spurred on to jump into the classroom, into the laboratory, into the library, into their nooks and crannies, and enthusiastically embark on thesis writing. I want to start by saying that thesis writing is a preserve of intellectuals. Thesis writing is not something that anybody can just embark upon. By implication, to be a graduate student is far more than being just a student. And I used to tell my students that PhD or even MPhil is not basic education. It requires a lot of intellectualism, energy, effort, perseverance, and of course interest to be a graduate student at that level. So when you say you're going to write a thesis, it's not like going to write a letter writing, or write a story, or write a script. It's not an all-comers plaything. Anybody says, I'm going to write a thesis, I'm going to do MPhil, I want to do a PhD. No, it's not an all-comers occupation or profession. Like I said earlier, thesis writing requires a lot of time, energy, commitment, and zeal. It's not something to combine with doing petty trading, your business here and there. You have to devote a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of commitment, sacrifice of your time, sacrifice of your pleasure in order to have something successful. Above all, Individuals, universities are often assessed by the quality of students' thesis and staff research publications. When you talk about, oh, University X is the 15th in the ranking of the universities in the world, or in Africa, or in West Africa, or in Ghana, the type of thesis, the type of research publications that are available in those institutions count a lot. If you write a thesis and you go home or your office and you are not proud to display your thesis, to leave it on a bookshelf that whoever cares can pick it up and go through what you have contributed to knowledge, then you have not yet started. That is why I say that this seminar, this series of research seminar is of utmost importance. And I urge our students, our participants, our grad students to please pay great attention to all that will take place during the period. Now, to the lecture itself, if I can call it a lecture. I always say I discuss, I do not lecture. There are certain requirements, but before we go into it, we talk about thesis. Thesis. What is this thesis all about? What is it? What is thesis? Thesis is not the same thing as I said. A casual paper that can be thrown here and there. A thesis is a written record, a documentation of a research undertaken by a candidate in order to communicate his or her knowledge and capabilities in any given field of knowledge. It's a written document, painstakingly produced in order to communicate what you think you know, what you think you have found out. So when you write it, hello?
Hello, Prof. We are listening, Prof.
Oh, okay, my dear.
Hello, Prof.
When you write this, hello?
Yes, we are listening, Prof.
Somebody, okay. When you write a thesis, you are concentrating on a minute, very small, clinical aspect of knowledge, an issue, a problem. Take, for example, in my PhD, I looked at the issue of job satisfaction. It's just a tiny issue when you talk about personnel or human resource management, when you talk about motivation and the rest of it all. I just looked at one little aspect of it, motivation, employee motivation. Job satisfaction. What does it mean for one to say, I am satisfied with my job? It's only a little tiny aspect. This is a demonstration of one's mastery of a particular academic issue or problem, presenting new information or a fresh perspective on an existing idea or belief. If one writes a so-called thesis and there's nothing that is new, there's nothing you have contributed, no new information that a reader will look at and say, wow, is that so? Then you have written a thesis. Therefore, there are certain required set skills, certain things you must imbibe, you must cultivate, you must develop in order to embark on a thesis, a successful thesis writing. One is information retrieval skills. You must have the skill of how to get information. In these days of ICT, there are loads and loads and loads of information everywhere. How does one decipher what is useful and what is not useful? How do you dismiss publication as rubbish, as fake, or as credible? It is a skill. And a thesis writer must have that skill. It's just like browsing. When you browse through, I mean, a good scholar can browse through a book of 1,000 pages in one day and get the nuts and get the essential information in the 1,000-page. Information retrieval skill. In other words, you must know how to go to the library, access the library, look at the library, look at the area of books. And in Egypt, in a short while, you'll be able to identify what is relevant to what you're looking for. Internet surfing. Many of us, many of our students, many of us, we have very expensive mobile sets, iPhone, iPod, name them. What do we use them for? Is it just for gossip? How do you use the internet facility that's available to you? Or the equipment, the facility that you have? Browsing is an art. And one has to learn how to browse and get useful information and dump the chaff. Note taking. You must know how to read through and take appropriate notes. You can read 10 chapters, and in your note you have only 5 or 6 points, bullet points, and you are through. Some people don't know how to take notes, and that is why a good number of us are guilty of plagiarism. When you don't know how to take notes and then build on the notes you have taken, the tendency is to fall into the trap of being a copycat, plagiarism, which is a crime in academics. The thesis writer must have critical, analytical thinking skills, always asking why not, when, why there, why not elsewhere, who said, when did he say it, why did he say it, why didn't he say something else, who was the audience, could the audience have affected what he or she said? Ability to think critically and not to take any fad as truth. And that's a problem many of us are making. I've read a number of theses all my life, and all they do is that whatever has been published online is correct. And when you read a thesis, you go to the bibliography or the reference section, you see hundreds of citations. You read a publication in a so-called online journal, and you see so many grammatical errors, information not properly organized, no logical presentation, false information, and you just cut them. I call it cut and paste. You cut and paste into your write-up, and you call it thesis writing. You should be able to decipher. Problem identification. That's another skill. You're a teacher, you're a lecturer, you're a professor, you're a student. Are you able to identify problems in your area of specialization, in your area of operation? You are in Winneba, you are in Ghana, you are in central region of Ghana. Within the educational system, what are the problems? What type of problems are there? You should be able to know what a problem is that needs solution. It's not just a matter of raising up your head and think of a topic that means nothing and start writing volumes and volumes of unreadable trash. To be able to know what problem there is within the educational system, within the academic environment, that needs solution. A problem is a matter that needs solution. In other words, you must have what we call the Argus eye. This is a Greek mythology. This is the god Argus that has so many eyes that when he opens the eyes, he can even see things behind him, things beneath, things in all corners. A thesis writer must have that Argus eye to be able to know the problems that need solution. It is through there that you will contribute to knowledge. And of course, finally, communication skills in terms of precision, in terms of grammar, expression, writing ability, communicating effectively, intelligently. There must be intelligibility in whatever you are writing. There are so many skills, but these are very essential. Having said that, you want to write a thesis, we should be able to know the composition and the structure of a thesis. And that takes me to the next slide. Phases of thesis writing. The first thing is for us to choose a topic. Choose a topic. How do you choose a topic? Of course, somebody can suggest a topic for you, but usually a topic that is imposed on a student or on a candidate sometimes never gets finished on time, except if you, the writer, you, the student, you have personal interest in the issue to be investigated. Personal interest. I remember when I did my first master's degree, I had a quarrel with my supervisor when I presented a topic and he said, no, what's all this blah, 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 blah. I said, excuse me, sir, but this is an area I think one needs to examine. And I gave him my reason, my experience when I was doing my national service, what I experienced in the field. And I thought that it was a problem that needs being looked into. And after a great deal of argumentation, discussion with my supervisor, a professor, a renowned professor in management, at the end of the day, he said, willy-nilly, said, okay, you go ahead. I think to the glory of God, and I'm saying it, I'm on the internet, that I finished my MSc in 8 months. I came out with a distinction because it was something of interest to me. So I devoted all I had, my time, my energy, my fund, everything to help. For nothing else I knew what to do except to sleep in the library, from the library to the computer room to my hostel room, wake up the next day. I had the theory aspect. I had done that session for my thesis, and I devoted the whole session, and I finished, and I came out tops. It's not that I want to praise myself, but I'm trying to say, if you do not embark on a subject, an issue, a problem that is of interest to you, you will find it very difficult. And whatever you write might be artificial, skeletal, without any critical mass. Something else that can help you choose a topic is your own knowledge, your skill, and time availability. If you don't have enough time, you don't have enough fund, and you want to look at problems facing male and female research students in Ghana, West Africa, of course, it's an interesting thing to hear, but can you do it? Can you complete it? Do you have skill? Do you have the fund? Do you have the time? How many areas are you going to visit and sample in order to make a study that can be generalized for the entire Ghanaian country? So, your own knowledge about this area, the time you have available to you, and how feasible it is, how reasonable, how easy, contact persons, administration of the instrument over a wide area. You can, for example, say you are doing a study of central region in Ghana, XYZ of central region of secondary schools, senior secondary schools in the central region of Ghana, and you just chose 2 or 3 schools in Winneba. You've not done any study of the central region. You've done a study of Winneba. So the topic and what you have done are at cross purposes. Critical mass. You do not choose a topic that is not rich, that is not full, that doesn't have meat, M-E-A-T, meat to chew. Then when you chew it, it does not fill your mouth. You make a study of 10 participants in the study, in your sample, maybe 10 teachers or 10 students, whatever it is you are looking, and you come out and call it a thesis. Where is the critical mass, for goodness sake? Of course, you can write a paper. You can write a paper, publish it in the journal. It will be acceptable, but it will not qualify for a thesis. Unfortunately, I've seen so many of such accepted as thesis. You look at the population. What's the population? The population, just a school. They sample 5 teachers, 3 male and 2 female, and at the end you generalize outside that school. That is an offense, crying to heaven for vengeance. The topic you choose must be of relevance. Relevant to whom? 1, what does your institution, your university expect? What's the priority of your university? If you embark on a study that the university does not emphasize, it may be good elsewhere, but you are not satisfied the requirement of your university. Stakeholders, parents, students, financiers, the government at the local level, at the central level, at the district level. These are all our stakeholders, those who fund our educational system. The topic you are doing will be of benefit to them. Like we say in Rotary International, what you are doing, is the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to all? Will it serve the purpose for which people are expending their time and their money? Having chosen the topic you want to write upon, you have to find out whether anybody. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Prof.
Yeah?
We are listening.
Am I on?
Yes, you are on.
Oh, thank you very much.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Prof.
Okay, thanks. Now, I have said you have now chosen a topic, whatever the topic is. You don't take pen and paper and start writing anything. The next thing is to go to the library. Start looking for information. The topic on which you want to write, find out whether no one else has done something about it. Remember knowledge. We say we create knowledge. In fact, I don't know whether we create knowledge or we merely regurgitate knowledge and add something new to existing knowledge, or turn it round. You don't come out and say, I'm the first person to do a study on that. You may never be sure. You may never be correct. My PhD supervisor when I was in UK was doing a research work for American women in the armed forces. military sociology. I was helping him get information. When we had finished doing the work for over 3 good years, he came out and said, "Oh my God, Aloy, we've done it. This is the best of it all, nothing of its kind." As we were about to go and submit this work to the United States from Britain, where I was, accidentally, at the American Library of Congress, we discovered that somebody had done such a study in the early 20th century. And it was like, we had to go back. And it took us another 6 months to realign the work that we were doing. What am I saying in essence? Try and ascertain state-of-the-art literature in your related field. Read far and wide. Why would somebody be doing a study in Ghana on any topic, say something that affects educational system worldwide or in Africa, and all your information are just from other works done by researchers in Winneba, in Cape Coast, or in Accra region? How difficult is it for students in Ghana or students in Nigeria or elsewhere to find out what their colleagues in the other countries have been able to do and learn from it? But always what now we have discovered in this part of the world, West Africa, is whatever is online from India, Pakistan, Azerbaijan, Malaysia, Uruguay, China, Hong Kong, that are placed on online because they have the facility to push anything online. That's all you get in our literature review in most of the studies in West Africa, particularly Ghana and Nigeria. That is not acceptable. A scholar must read far and wide. For goodness sake, we must not be in a hurry. Do job, consult. With the internet, you can easily reach out. You can access a website of another university in Nigeria, in Cape Coast, in Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, in University of Development, in Professional Institute, Accra, Ghana, and so on. But I just discovered that most of our research students are lazy. They are very lazy. What they call literature is merely getting a book. Like if someone is writing on motivation, all you hear there is about Maslow, about Herzberg, about Adafa, things that I read when I was even an undergraduate student. That's all they call literature review. We accept those things. That is not a thesis in the modern sense of it. We should be able to ascertain what is going on, the state-of-the-art literature, not in Ghana, not in Nigeria. It says state-of-the-art literature worldwide. We are now what we call globalism. The world is a village. You can get information from anywhere. I would love to see when our PhD MPhil students begin to cite authorities from other parts of Africa, South Africa, East Africa, Europe. Unfortunately, they don't even cite authorities in Europe, in England, for example, in Scotland, in France, in Germany. It's all things that are online, all these printing press publications that they sell to us. I'm not asked. Those are also useful, but please stretch out your dragnet. You must also find out how recent or contemporary or up-to-date what you are reading is. And that is why if you are citing literature previous studies. This year is 2020, and you are citing things of 1985, 1980, 1975. You are telling me that nothing has been done since then till today. It is not advisable to go back beyond 20 years behind. Like 2020, 20 years ago, year 2000, to get enough work, because the educational system, indeed all our systems in the universe, are fluid. They are changing rapidly. And when you're reading, when you're trying to find out what other people have done, pay attention also to the type of methodology they adopted. What method did they use? Is it qualitative or quantitative? Or is it a combination of both? I just discovered that some institutions or some group of students or some people, for lack of knowledge, my people perish, I would say. All you hear is, oh, my study is qualitative. And they think that qualitative is that simple. Unfortunately, what I have observed among most of our writers as qualitative research are not qualitative. They are merely summary of what other people have done. Qualitative, no more rubrics, no more attention to ways and methods of investigation and reporting the result of your investigation, analyzing your data. Who says that qualitative data are not analyzable? Analysis doesn't necessarily mean figures, analyzing statistical figures. You analyze, being argumentative, but I don't see those things. Find out the type of methods used. And in any study you are trying to review, also pay attention to the findings. What did they find? Are the findings something that will excite you to make you go in and see how you can either confirm or contradict what they have found? That's what we call identification of gap in literature. When you get a literature, what are the gaps? Is there anything that has been left undone that will inform the design of your own study? Having said this, I think we now want to talk about the sequence of presentation. Assuming you've got all your facts, your information, your analysis, I'm sure someone else will go into all these details in the research methods, various research methods, and so on.
Yes.
I don't think that is my concern here.
Yes, yes.
So I wouldn't waste time talking about research methods. But having done all that, you are now going to write. Now, what's the sequence? How do you now start? We have the preliminary pages. These are important. At a glance, the preliminary stages will give any reader an insight into what the individual student or candidate has produced. And the preliminary stages are composed of one, the title page. The title page contains the topic and all the topics capital letters, capitalized. Every letter in the topic is capital. Followed by the candidate's name in full, abbreviations not accepted, the department, and the university. Some other people will also include the faculty, the department, the faculty, and the university. It depends on different university guidelines. But generally, these are part of information that will be on the title page, followed by the acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is another. Table of content. The table of content normally goes in chapters. I'll be coming to that. The appendices, some people call it appendixes, XES, appendices, and a list of tables. Depending again on the university guidelines, universities decide how they want theirs. The pagination, some universities say appendices will be identified as appendix A, B, C, D, E, F. Some others say no, identify them with numerals. Appendix 1, appendix 2, appendix 3. List of tables. Some universities would want your list of tables to be identified by numerals. I attended a graduate university where the emphasis was that we should use Roman numerals for tables. 1, IX, XI, XII, and so on. The problem is where you have too many tables, you might reach a place where you don't even know whether you are using XXV or XXY and the rest of it all. But like I said, the university has its own guideline and the guideline must be followed. List of figures and then the abstract. And I said, note that the preliminary pages, that is, I'm not talking about numbering the appendix itself or numbering the table itself, but the page itself, all the preliminary pages are numbered with Roman numerals, I, V, VI, and so on. The whole of preliminary pages before you get to chapter 1, introduction. It is in chapter 1 that the first page there has to be written in Arabic numeral 1, 2, 3, that is the other side of E, and so on. Now we go to your chapters. Chapter 1, introduction. Like it's been shown on the slide, they are all in capitals. You don't have chapter 1 and 1 is Arabic numeral, no. Or you have capitals for the first letters. Every letter in that is in capital. And chapter 1, introduction, will have I wouldn't call them sub-chapters, subsections, which include background to the study. The APA, I'm sure someone else will also take that in the course of this seminar. The APA highlights the type of characters you will use. Background to the study, some will say background to the study, go to B capital to the study capital, as I have them there. Some others will say no, have all of them in capitals, but small font. It all depends. The graduate school should have a book of instruction to the students on the format. It should contain statement of the problem. Any thesis that does not contain statement of the problem is not a thesis. Whether you say you are doing whatever, whether you call it quantitative or qualitative or mixed method or triangulation or whatever, there must be a statement or a problem. That is where you justify why you are undertaking that thesis writing. What is the problem? What is it you want to talk about? What led into it? Theoretical framework. The problem you are about solving, is it guided by any theory? You know, our people, most of us take this theoretical framework as, in other words, just taking all the theories that are known in the area. Let's say, I don't know, can I just remember something? Okay, let's talk about productivity. You are doing something on productivity. And in theories of productivity, you are talking about motivation, you're talking about theory of engagement, you're talking about theory of employee commitment, and so on and so forth. All those theories. They are related theories, but theoretical framework is talking about a particular theory, or if they are a combination of theories that influence your work, and not a summary of all theories that seem to be related. This is your work. Which theory guides it? Which theory is it based? What theory informed what you have done, the action you have taken? And then what is the purpose of your study? The purpose of the study. Purpose of the study is not the objective of the study. Purpose of the study. What has led into it? The purpose you want to achieve. Objectives. The subset of the purpose. And those objectives or purpose of the study are made clear by the research questions, which is the next item, the research questions. And if it is an empirical study, a quantitative study, research hypotheses are compulsory. You cannot embark on a quantitative study, or in your, I've read some publication, not this though, where they are, in presenting the results, came out with some quantitative analysis and said significant at 0.05 level of significance. And then I asked, what hypothesis is this thing testing? What hypothesis was tested in order to get this table, statistical table? You cannot have statistical table without having research questions, research hypothesis. And when you have research hypothesis, they must be answered statistically. Hello?
Prof, we are listening. Prof, we are with you.
Anything? Can I continue?
Yes, you can continue. We are listening.
Okay, brother. Yes. All right. Now your scope of study. What is the scope of study? Some people call it limitation. Some others call it delimitation. There's a notion of difference between limitations and delimitation. When you talk about limitations, you are talking about what are the things that have hampered or that seem make you not to go as much as you would have gone. Is it in the area of funding? Is it in the area of accessibility and the rest of it all? Delimitation is talking about the geographical, the mass. Why do you limit yourself to, you delimit yourself to a certain area. You have a population of 1 million and you are taking 200,000. You delimit it. In fact, sampling is a symptom of delimitation. You are limiting it to something else, to something smaller than it ought to be. To tell out the scope of the study, instrument that you are using, what instrument? Why did you not go beyond the instrument you are using? What is scope? And how significant is this study you are taking anyway? Although it is at an MPhil level, where nearly all the students were writing the same thing for significance of the study. You are studying significance. How significant? How important? How relevant is it? How unique is your study? That is significance. You don't just take a paper and write. I want to tell our graduate students, pick 4 or 5 work that have been done before you. Read through them. And you'll be shocked, perhaps, that one copies from one another. And I made some of those things. And they are not studied from the heart. They make the heart to bleed. Of course, your operational definition of terms. If you notice, you can see that in my structure there, the first letter of every word there is capitalized. From the first one, background to the study. But little things like articles and those other tiny things like of, we don't capitalize them. But main critical word, the nouns, the noun that are standing are capitalized. Statement, capitalized. Problem, theoretical, framework, purpose, study. Pardon me, purpose of the study, that is typographical error. I discovered that after I had sent it. That study shouldn't be small s. But if the university says otherwise, please, my dear candidates, obey university's own prescription. What I'm talking about here is general. Some universities will adopt something else, but generally, this seems to be the guide everywhere. We go to chapter 2, review of literature. Again, see the capitalization, chapter 2, review of literature. Some others call it literature review. It's a style of expression. You either call it literature review or review of literature. Some say review of the literature. All of them are correct, but when you say review of the literature, that means you had already identified which literature. And that's where I don't accept THE, review of the, that's the. I personally, I don't accept it. Because you don't know what the literature is yet. Review of literature that is available. And literature review is of 2 components: conceptual and theoretical review, and related empirical studies review. What's the distinction? Conceptual theoretical review. That is where you get these textbooks that you talk about. You want to look at student performance in Ghanaian languages in senior secondary school. Your conceptual or theoretical review. You get some books that have been written by scholars like Dr. Tamamanja. Dr. Tamanja may have written one. You get a book, and some of the things he had talked about, you just get them, summarize them. They are not for previous studies. Things you get from textbooks are not previous studies. They are not studies per se. They are opinions. They are things that people have written on their own. Like you'd want to take Maslow's theory in a study. When you write things about Maslow's theory I'm saying it because many students use them, or any other theory for that matter. Those things don't belong to the real literature we are looking at, but they help to guide us. But the actual work in a thesis writing is a review of related empirical studies, review of empirical studies. In other words, what related studies have been done, like the one you are carrying out. And when you go there, you look at what the person had done, where it was done, what subjects were used in doing it, the methodology, the major findings and recommendations. You get a summary of it, and then you make your own observation, your own comment, to show that you are indeed a budding scholar. You should be able to identify some gaps. I'm not saying there must be a gap in every study, no. But read and see whether there are some gaps, some loopholes, certain things that were not taken care of. And you get them. At the end, please help me to insert this if you have the slide or you are reading the slide, participants. After the review of related literature, the next thing that comes there before chapter 3 is summary of literature reviewed. Summary of literature reviewed. And what do I mean by summary? This is where you bring out your opinion of the things that you have reviewed, things you found not necessarily, things you think that ought to be looked at again, the things that you found that are of great importance for study. And not to say a Jogu 2019 bracket, 2019 bracket, University of Education Winneba, how to write thesis writing, blah, 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 blah. Please let us find out what was either correct, incorrect, overemphasis, unnecessary, or not properly done. Don't just quote somebody and you leave the information there. You take another author, you talk blah, 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 you leave it. At the end, you say you have done literature review. We want to know your own opinion. We want to know your own view, your critical assessment of the literature. That comes at the summary of literature reviewed. Chapter 3 is the research methodology. Here, let us know whether you are going qualitative or quantitative or whatever in terms of when you talk about your research design. Unfortunately no, not unfortunately, incidentally, I've come across many people who in research design, they say the research design of this study is qualitative. That is not a research design. That is the form of method you are using. Research design is either it is survey, because whether it is qualitative or quantitative, they all could be survey, or they are experimental, especially those in the hardcore sciences. I don't see anybody in biology telling you that the research design is qualitative or quantitative. No, experimental design. In the social sciences, the research design is usually quasi-experimental. That is, they are not wholesale experiment, but they are experimental in nature. When you begin to take candidates, A, B, different of them in different sites, they are experimental, but not like the science experiment. So we must be very careful. I repeat, and I have discussed this with some of my students, even when I was in Winneba. Qualitative is not a research design, it's a research method. Quantitative is not a research design, it's a research method. The design. Population. The universe. The population. If you're making a study, well, I think I'm going into details. Someone else should be taking some of these details. What do you think?
Yeah, do what you think will be beneficial.
Population of the study. If you're making a study of secondary school teachers in Central District of Ghana, a central region, the population would be all of them, all those secondary school teachers, higher school teachers, they form the population. If there are 25 schools, 25 senior high schools or 50, they are the population. But you cannot do it all. It's impossible. That is where the question of sample comes in. Of these 25 or these 50 secondary schools in the central region of Ghana that are the population, you choose a fraction of them which is the sample. The sample and sampling technique you already know in your research methods. But the rule of the thumb, for those who do not want to go statistical, it used to be that if you can get 10% of the population, that you can generalize on the basis of that. But current studies are saying no, you have to be statistical about that. And Frisch and the rest of them, your lecturer in data analysis on statistical methods will teach you that. There are formula to determine that you will use. But let me warn that you do not cheat yourself by just picking a little group of people. Although you're making your study in the central region, you just concentrated on 5 schools in Winneba and 5 schools in, where is that, in Kaswa, and 5 schools in Swedro. It is not representative. You are parochial. You have to go through multi-stage sampling technique. When you get this central region of Ghana, you now go to their local districts. Like Winneba is, I think it's a district or whatever it's called. You have Winneba, you have just the rest of them, up to Cape Coast and so on. You get those districts. From these districts, you select a proportion of them that are representative. If you want to take 10% of them, you select them. Don't take one and say you are making a study of the central region. No. And of course, to talk about central region, you'll be too ambitious. Except you have the money, the time, the facilities. So in other words, always try to cut a coat, not according to your size, but according to the size of your cloth. Your size may be very big, but your cloth is small. So how can you cut it according to your size? Cut your coat according to your cloth. your research instruments. Even when you are doing a qualitative research, there are instruments you use. You can even use structured interview. It's an instrument. Questionnaires, they're instruments. Observation. What instrument do you use? And these instruments must be described. It is not enough to say the instrument I use is a questionnaire titled XYZ. It was it gave a validity of 0. We know how to fake all those things, and yet when we ask you how do you arrive at the validity, you open your mouth wide. How do you get the reliability? Reliability is 0.05. What does 0.05 mean? Many of us don't understand. But because we've seen it written in many publications, we just put it there. How did you arrive at? What statistical method did you use in analyzing your data? What method did you use in your reliability test? You ask somebody, it tells you, I did test retest. What is test retest? You should describe that your test retest. When did the first test take place? When did the second test take place? What information did you get after comparing both tests? And what statistics did you apply to arrive at your reliability test? People have heard about Cronbach, some have heard about Brown formula and the rest of them. But our students are fond of just putting on a figure without expressing there on paper how they did it. When you talk that you use a questionnaire, what are the components of that questionnaire? What did the questionnaire contain? What are the indices that made up the questionnaire? It's not enough to say, I use this questionnaire, the name, and that you establish validity and reliability. No, the questionnaire. I'm not saying you should present the questionnaire there as it is, whole and entire. But let us know what that questionnaire looked into. Just some phrases. The questionnaire was designed to investigate the following indices: blah, 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 semicolon, blah, blah, semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. And so those are the indices that your questionnaire was based on. But I have not seen many theses that contain those things. I have not seen many, and that is unfortunate. The same thing as validity. Oh, I showed it that validity was established, my supervisor and 2 of my classmates. Can you imagine where your classmate is the one who is validating your study? Someone who is learning as you are learning. The validity is supposed to be something an expert does if you are going to do content or phase validity or even concurrent validity. If it's going to be concurrent, it goes beyond showing it to an expert. It has to be done. It's a test. Concurrent validity has to be tested. So I am advising my good friends, MPhil, PhD students, that your validity, you must tell us the procedure in establishing that validity. You showed it to your supervisors. How many people did you show it? What were the observations? What was the original thing you submitted to them? Perhaps the number of items. How many did it become when they had looked at it? Or what corrections were made? Let us have some description, for goodness sake, please. I think in my talking, I have even covered validity and reliability. Yeah. They are 2 different things. And many of our people, validity, reliability, they are not honest in their story, in their tale. They just look at another one and say, what method did you use? Oh, okay. Face validity. Who did you use? Lecture. Yes, I used tools. They are all the same thing. And the validity was established by my two supervisors, by my supervisor and my head of department. Or I showed it to two lecturers in the university. Oh my God. May God help us. Procedure for data collection. Some people, even those who do qualitative and study, they're even mistaken here. What the procedure you used? That is even where it's very important. Those who want to embark on qualitative research, the procedure is very important. You describe it in detail. How did you get information? How many people helped you? Did you do it alone? Did you administer the instrument if it's a questionnaire alone? If it is conducting a test, did you conduct the test alone and mark the test alone? Who assisted you? What is the qualification of the person who assisted you? How do we know that the person who assisted you is of good quality? I can see some interruption. Do I stop?
It's breaking, but we can hear you. Oh.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's
So
breaking, but we can hear you.
I'm very sorry. Okay. I was talking about this procedure for data collection.
Yes.
And I was saying that, especially for qualitative, let those who say they want to embark on qualitative research, please go and read the methodology for qualitative research. And they are so faulty, even in reporting their findings, so abysmal from my past experiences. Are things I will just throw away to the gutter because they don't contain any reliable information. They look like what someone can sit on a table and cook it up, dress it up properly, and present to us as a dish. It is not proper. Let there be time. If you're administering 1,000 questionnaire, again, let me say, please, even when you have one questionnaire, but there are 2,000 copies, they are not questionnaires. Your instrument is a questionnaire, but you administered 1,000 copies of the questionnaire, not 1,000 questionnaires. Any external examiner will ask you use 50 subjects and you administered questionnaires. But I'm seeing only one questionnaire here. Which other questionnaire did you use? That can cause you problem. You can have 2 questionnaires in a study. Depends. If, for example, you have a study that includes head teachers and students, you might have one questionnaire for students, another questionnaire for teachers and head teachers. That's okay. But if you have one piece meant for 50 people, they are not 50 questionnaires. They are merely 50 copies of a questionnaire. I'm just talking about grammar here anyway. The researcher now goes to chapter 4, result and discussion. What do we expect to find in your result? Your result should concentrate on answers that you obtain to the research questions. They could be in word sentences. They could be in data. And data comprises some nominal data.
Hello. That is
Huh? Hello?
Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello,
Yeah.
Prof. We are listening.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
We are
So
listening.
your data may just be like your normal percentage and number and percentage. And somebody uses the number percentage to answer a question that should be quantitative. And at the end you say, from this, men are better than women in their work attitudes by simply a question that says yes or no. How do you answer that? It must be statistically tested. Anything that has to be comparative, you cannot make a pronunciation on a comparative question unless you subject that question to statistical measurement. Another group of information under this for presentation of results is tests and analysis of hypotheses. This is where statistical data come in, where you do your ANOVA analysis of variance, or you use it involves t-test, student t-test, or two-tailed t-test, or whatever type of t-test, or you're doing all sorts of tests anyway. The statistical tests are here. They are mostly for hypotheses. You don't use them for any study that is not hypothesized. Discussion of findings. Some people have discussion of findings separate after they have presented their results in terms of answering the questions and presenting their data analysis to the hypothesis. Then they do discussion either as a different chapter or as another section. Some others would recommend that when you present a result, to answer one question, you give the data, you discuss it. You discuss it before going to another question, data and discussion, and so on and so forth. It's a matter of style. Like I said, there's no one fast rule about it, but each university has its own way. And it depends on which your university says. The graduate school has a document on these matters and which must be adhered to strictly. What about this discussion of findings? What do you discuss? I'm not talking about interpretation of results. When you said the mean score for A is this, mean score for B is this, test of t-test, this is the t-test value, blah, 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 is significant at 0.0015. The hypothesis that says that female are better in the art subjects than male has been accepted. You have not discussed anything. You have only interpreted it. In discussion, we want to find out from you, what do you think made the women to be better? It is in discussion we get the intelligence in you. That is where you prove that you have read far and wide. That is where you will prove as a research writer that you have a lot of experience that you can use. You go out into the market on your own to surmise, be free in discussion. You are neither right nor wrong. Nobody will say you are wrong. It is your own view. Let me give you an example. There was a time in my university, my home university, the first class students, those who made first class at the end of the program, their program, were more women than men. And generally everybody was, oh, ooh, why so many women? Now, if you're a researcher, you're not going to say, it's because in the exam, this number of women obtained this mark, and this number of female obtained this mark. Therefore, female perform better than males. Yes. Excuse me. What you have done is to interpret it, but you are not discussing it. Give a reason. What do you think? What do you think? And if you have thought nobody will kill you, show us how you can argue. A scholar is always argumentative. When that type of thing happened, it just occurred to me. There was an occasion, not my university actually, somewhere where it happened. I said to my students, come on now, wait a minute. Stop alluding unnecessary reason for that. Do you know that girls are better equipped for their studies? One, they have parental support. Two, some of them have fiancés or boyfriends outside there who give them enough money. If we recommend a book, girls are the first to buy. If you say we want everyone to be equipped with ICT, they quickly get a source. They have enough time to read. But you boys, some of you boys, you also have the girlfriend that you cater for as well for yourself. And when you get your own money, you even spend it on that girl rather than on yourself. Why wouldn't the girl perform better than you are? And everybody laughed. That's something like a discussion. I'm just giving you this little thing. A discussion is something that is inside you, that you think aloud and express it. When I read a thesis, I go to the discussion. That's where I normally concentrate to find out where this researcher can think, can be analytical, can be critical, can probe into issues, and not just take anything for granted. Discussion is a very important part of the thesis writing. And when you finish your discussion, we now go to chapter 5. Please, another typographical error. All those small letters, that is not the way it should be. All chapter 5, summary, conclusion, and recommendation, they should all be in capital letters, the format. And this chapter is composed of summary of this study. In other words, summarize everything they've done from the topic that you said, the reason this study was done, the instrument that you used, the people that participated in this study, the subjects in the study, the instrument that you used, the finding that you used, how it was administered, the major findings, and what you think are the implications of your findings. And what do we mean by implications of findings? Implications for further study or for further practice. There are two aspects of implications, for practice and for knowledge. Is there anything new in knowledge that we have discovered in your study? Something that we could say, wow, Eureka, I have found it. This is it. What new thing do you think that we all can take home when we read your work. That is what we mean by implications. And when you're talking about implications, it must have implications for the stakeholders. You are doing a study in education. What are the implications for the managers of the school, depending on your study? Implication for the practitioners, implication for the stakeholders, and implication for the students, where relevant. A paragraph each will do on the implications. And of course, you make your recommendations. If you think your study is worth being called a study, there must be recommendation. There must be something you have discovered in the study that will make us happy. What are you recommending? Based on your research questions. Remember that you had a problem, statement or a problem. Now go back to your problem statement and see whether you have solved anything in that study, whether it has answered that your problem. Then let us hear it in your conclusion, which is the next one, in your conclusion and your contribution to knowledge. And when you do that now, you come to your references. And I said, note that all pages from introduction to the last page of the thesis should be numbered in Arabic numerals, as I said. Some people said center page bottom, some others said center of the page up, some other institutions said top right-hand side. It depends on what your school wants, but they must be page. The school will tell you whether you are typing double space or 1.5 space or single space. Again, that's not a matter that we can generalize upon. I then want to summarize by looking at, again, these technical issues. One, about abstract. Remember that the abstract, when you are binding or presenting your thesis, it comes before even the introduction. But in writing the abstract, it is always advisable to write the abstract after you have finished writing the study up to conclusion. When you've written introduction, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, your appendices, your references, the abstract is the last thing to do. Reason, because an abstract is a summary of the entire write-up. Abstract is not just telling you the intention of what you want to do. Remember that it includes the findings, the major findings, and the major recommendation. And that is why it is advisable that the abstract is what should be written last. This is where the biblical saying that the last shall be the first. The last to be written will be the first to be presented when you are binding your work. It should come. In the presentation, the PowerPoints we presented, you saw where abstract is listed. That's where it should be, but it will come first. But in writing it is the last thing that will be done. All our writing will be formal. No colloquialism. No necessary abbreviation like isn't, ISN apostrophe et. isn't? Or it's, ITS for it is, or I am for I am. Such abbreviations are not allowed. It should be formal. And those of you, my younger generation, who are, you've gone highly technical, not those of my age, we are not digital. I please want to beg you, as much as possible, run away from your social media language. All those languages, that type of languages. Somebody had written an essay to me and used some of those things like keke. Instead of saying it is all right, he said keke. What does that mean? I know what it is in the ICT language. Please, most of the ICT language are not allowed in our thesis. And if you are adopting an American spelling, please be consistent. Of course, in a computer, regrettably, the computer just gives you American spellings in many things. When they give you, be very careful. Reject it. Click back. If you are using English spelling. Now that they say Pidgin language, I think it's yesterday or 2 days ago, Pidgin language has now been adopted as a second language. Another language, it's been adopted worldwide by the United Nations as a foreign language. Maybe one day they will permit us to be using Pidgin English. But until then, please stick to formal English in spelling, in punctuation, and in collation. So, acronyms. Acronyms may be allowed, but never in the title. I saw someone who wrote a title and said UEW. What is UEW? What is UEW to the world? Please, you may use UEW in the body of your work, but as a title, it does not come in there. University of Education, Winneba, period. No abbreviation. Or institution, you write INST. There's nothing like that. Please. Or Institute of International Research in Education, IIRE. In your title, no. They are not allowed in the title of thesis. Now in the text itself, wherever you use acronym, for the first time you are using it, use it in full and abbreviate. Then subsequent use in the same text, you may use the abbreviation. All true. Remember, acronyms hardly use punctuations, full stop. They hardly. Then there are no more acronyms. UEW cannot use U full stop, E full stop, W full stop. There's no more acronym. There are no abbreviations. So you must know what is an acronym and what is, like UNESCO. UNESCO is an acronym. And wherever you see UNESCO, you don't see any full stop. It's written as one word. And if you are doing any study for UNESCO, you don't write on the table and say UNESCO and its blah, blah, blah to education in Ghana. The United Nations and Scientific and Cultural Organization aid for education in Ghana is this. Subsequently, UNESCO abbreviated. UN, United Nations itself. UN is an acronym. UNO abbreviations. So acronym must be spelled out, but not allowed. in the text. I insist on consistency in the use of tenses. You can't be jumping on the same page or same chapter or same work from the use of present tense to past tense to future, future to continuous, future back to past tense. Be consistent. For me, it's a matter of style and also for institutions. But for me, I love what I call the present, the historical present. That's what I use. Not just present, but it is historical. Those things that are, they're not changeable. They can be changed. They're historical. The type of thing you use, for example, in religion. You don't say Jesus was Lord. Jesus is Lord. That is historical, and it is present. There are many things. According to my study, it is suggested, because for me, it is still existing in my study. Nobody has said it is wrong. So why would I say it was suggested? In my book, I suggest. I'm still suggesting in that book. Not I suggested. But the choice is yours. What is important is consistency. Avoid first person pronoun and determiners. They are not allowed. And what do I mean by first pronouns? I, me, we. Even second person pronoun, you, your, my, mine, ours, our. Those personal pronouns, whether singular or plural, are not allowed. Please. It's better to always stick to abstract nouns and impersonal pronouns. The people, the men. Use nouns, use small nouns. If you are to use pronoun, it must be impersonal. Lengthy paragraphs should be avoided. I've read one book where a whole page was a paragraph. A whole page was a paragraph. In fact, it even crept into the other page. And I said, for goodness sake, this fellow was sleeping. Be very careful. A paragraph contains an idea. An idea. And I don't see how a paragraph should have more than 3 sentences or 4 sentences at most. Another paragraph will now latch on to the other paragraph that is going before. There must be a latch. It is a discussion. It should flow paragraph to paragraph. And not just keep on writing until you get tired, you put full stop and start another sentence. Same thing with long sentences. I don't know what Bible I was reading the other day. I screamed, let us import Ephesians or something like that. I was reading it, those of you who are Christian, non-Christian, please pardon me. And as I was going on, I was running out of breath. And I said, come on. He said, is it the fault of the publisher? Luckily, I have another edition of the Bible. I took another edition. I went to the same thing. The same thing, no semicolon. I said, what? Except comma, 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 comma. And more than 11 lines in the Bible. I said, I said, well, these are, they are ghosts, they are scriptural people. I won't comment on them. But in the thesis, it's not allowed. So lengthy paragraphs should be avoided. Please, each paragraph contains an idea. If there are 2 or 3 ideas, separate them to paragraphs. Every chapter should have not less than 2 subheadings. In chapter, you have chapter 3 and chapter 3 methodology. And you just keep on writing only 1 sub-paragraph. I'm talking about chapters. I'm not talking about paragraphs. Each chapter should have not less than 2 subheadings. Otherwise, it's not a chapter. It should belong elsewhere. And I said, avoid reference to specific personal opinions. You're writing a thesis, you said, Professor Ejeagwu in his lecture to us. It had nothing to do with thesis writing. This is specific personal opinion. If Professor Ejeagwu had written such a thing in a book, a published book, not a lecture note, then you say, according to Ejeagwu 2020 page, or if you're not if you are quoting me, you put page. If you are paraphrasing, Ejeagwu, 2020 bracket, was of the opinion, or is of the opinion, blah, 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 blah. But my personal ordinary opinion has nothing to do with your writing. Even in our class, a matter like this, Dr. Emmanuel Tamanja told us, is that what you're writing in a thesis? No. Those are personal opinions. Even if the instructions, they are not material for a thesis. For emphasis in an expression, use italics. There are certain words you want to express, or a phrase, or a clause you want to emphasize for meaning. Don't use bold and don't underline. Please just use italics. Unless our Bible, the APA, says otherwise. I am sure when I was in Winnipeg, I told my MPhil PhD students that they must all get copies of APA. APA now has its 7th edition. We were using 6th edition until early this year or late last year. The 7th edition is the current one of APA. And APA, I'm talking about the American Psychological Association. That is what many of us use, unless Winnipeg chooses, your graduate school chooses another guide. Avoid plagiarism. And the only way to avoid plagiarism is to learn how to paraphrase. No idea is sacrosanct. No idea is your own. All we are writing, I have one book of about 700 pages here. You want to tell me that every information in that book is mine? God forbid. I borrowed an idea from here and there. But when I read something, let's say Professor Kankam has written, I read it and I like it. I can paraphrase it. Learn how to paraphrase. Good. In Nigeria here, I tell my students sometimes, I refer them to English department. I tell them, go to the English department. I studied English anyway, as a first degree. I say, go to my former department. They will help you. Get some of the students there to teach you how to paraphrase. And how do we paraphrase? Look at all the nouns. Not proper nouns, but proper nouns are, you can't change them. Otherwise, you alter the meaning. most of the adjectives and adverbs may not be necessary. You take the kernel, take the real kernel, the nut of what you want to use. Use it and build your own sentences around it. Express the same idea. And you still acknowledge the person who had that idea is a new idea. But not to take what I have written in my book word for word and write it there as if it is your own. If I read it anywhere, I'll take you to court. If I want to be lenient, I'll tell you to buy 50 copies of my book. Then I'll let you go free. Otherwise, I'll take you to court. Avoid plagiarism. Learn to paraphrase. Adopt the basic font size that is recommended by your university. But generally speaking, globally, the recommended font size is 12 times Roman 12 point, times Roman, New Roman, times New Roman 12 is usually recommended. Appendices are for such clearing informations, which if you exclude them from the text will not do any harm. Like your questionnaire. If you write a thesis, a copy of that questionnaire must be in the appendix, not inside the text. To be honest with you, my dear colleagues, I've read a thesis where the questionnaire was inside the text. And I say, what is this one doing here? Send them to the appendix. In my PhD, I was supervised by a professor who doesn't have time for all this, our statistical formula and the rest of them all. Analysis of variance. When you start writing the statistics and how you came about it. He said, look, my friend, do you think I have time for all this rubbish? They belong to the appendix. Anybody who doubts or who wants to know more should go to the appendix. Appendix for people who want to know more than you have presented. Things like the questionnaire, your structured interview, and your long statistical formula or data. Statistical analysis technique, the technique you use to analyze your data. Send them to the appendix and bring us the meaty information we need in the text. And there you say, see Appendix A. You must refer the reader to the appendix where the details are contained. That is why appendices are very, very important. Now, this is not in the slide. When you finish writing your thesis, don't just hurry to go and submit it. Please do a spell check. Thank God ICT has given us a software you can use to check your spelling errors in terms of editing. Do your spell check. Don't be in a hurry to graduate. You have finished your work. You are not going to run away. I don't want you to be like the tortoise that fell into the pit latrine and was there for 3 years. And on the day he was going to be brought out, the moment the rescuers opened the pit, he shouted, please hurry up. I'm being suffocated in this pit. That is very funny.
I think what he has done, yes, because he started.
So, hasten slowly. Read through your work. Show it to some other fellow. When you finish, please beg someone else to help read through it. Give him some money to compensate him for his or her time. help me read through this and see. For I know of a relation who finished, and during the acknowledgement, he even typed the name of his wife wrongly. And during the external exam, they asked him, have you read through, go through your acknowledgement? He read it through. He said, are you correct? That was in UK. He said, yeah. He said, read again, are you right? Everything is correct? He said, yes. He said, okay, read your the very last sentence in the acknowledgement. He read it and discovered that he was talking rubbish. He said, what did you write there? He said, you want to acknowledge your wife, Mr. So. Is your wife a Mr.? And the name there is also a man's name. You know, there are some names that men and women share, except there's a little letter that changes it. Like if you are John, the woman might be Joanne, Joan, instead of John. Just a little letter makes a difference. And you will not believe it, this is in UK. And the external examiner said, well, you are not yet ready to defend. Go and read your work, and when you're ready, the department can send for me. Not like here in Africa, in West Africa, where the external examiner will even come. I will be begging to see whether you will come or not. Ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, here I say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. I'm through. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Prof. Hello. Hello, Prof.
Yeah?
Dr. Samanja, are you muted?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Samanja. We are waiting for you.
Oh, sorry, this thing went off.
Yes.
Yeah, I
My
said,
internet went off briefly, but I'm back.
Yes, I have bowed out. I said thank you very much
Okay.
for the opportunity.
Oh, Prof, I think that we should thank you for the lengthy presentation and then the insights that you have brought to this. I am not attempting to summarize what you have done because this is expertly done. And so we are grateful for the time that you have spent and the insight that you have given us. Hello, Prof.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now we invite students. Ima?
In fact, the students, because this thing is breaking, some of the concerns that they raised have gone off. But I still see one from one Charles Agri. He says that great presentation by all standards. Prof, can you please touch on the conceptual and theoretical review again? What is the clear difference? Can both be presented in a thesis? And then there is one from Owusu Prince. This such an insightful presentation. Bless you, Prof. Please, does thesis writing requires a specific pages?
Let me start from the last person. The thesis, the number of pages will be determined by the graduate school. But in my university, we do not expect to see any work that is more than 50,000 words.
Okay. Maybe George can clarify.
The second question, the first question, which I'm now answering last, clarification on conceptual framework from empirical work. by conceptual theoretical framework, I think he was talking about, okay,
The review.
conceptual
Review.
framework. The concepts, okay, let me say, like I said, I'm doing a work on work values, teachers' work values. What are the concepts there? We talk about the meaning of work. You express it. It's a concept. What does work mean to people? How do people see work? Work as work. Is there a difference in meaning of work as attached to various groups of people in Europe, in Africa, and so on? The concept of work. Another concept relating to that is values. Now here you have many theories of values. What is value? Concept of value. The meaning of value, types of value, how value can be cultivated, different theories about value, classifications of value. These are all conceptual and theoretical framework. But when it comes to empirical review, you now go to look any work that has been done on values orientation of teachers, of workers, of male or female. Studies have been done in various parts of the world. These are the things that will come to the second aspect of your literature, the conceptual. And when it comes to the theoretical framework, there are many theories about work values. Which of them are you taking as your guide in this study? Is it, for example, Alport's value? Is it Callaghan value? And so on. I've not done my revision on values. I can't. There are many theories. Some of the values are looking at values in terms of generational gap values and so on. Is that where you are interested? Then that is your theoretical framework. That is the one you now bring as your theoretical framework, and you describe what it is all about and how it is related to your work. I don't know whether I have answered the guy. I wish it were face to face.
No, that's fine, but I think I want George to come in with the number of pages for the guidelines.
Right.
Exactly what is happening.
Thank you, Prof. Anna Mamensa. The
Oh,
graduate
my
school,
brother, how are you?
very fine, sir. The graduate school handbook, page 12, has the number of chapters from non-research master's degree right down to doctoral degrees.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have from chapters 1 to 6 for doctoral, and chapters 1 to 5 for non-research and up to MPhil.
Okay.
Yes. So for MPhil, 5 chapters. PhD can be between 5 and 6 chapters. Page 12 of the graduate school handbook, please. And then non-research master's degree, not more than 200 words.
Okay.
Research master's degree, not more than 250 words.
Okay.
PhD and doctor, no more than 250 words.
Okay.
Okay.
So these are clearly delineated in the graduate school handbook, please.
So
Page 12.
The guidelines.
Yeah, the guidelines.
You should read it.
Yes, has all these. Please, page 12 of the thesis or dissertation project handbook.
Okay, so there are some other
My
concerns.
dear students, yes. So my dear students, go back to the School of Graduate Studies web page, thesis or dissertation project handbook, page 12 has all these details. Thank you.
Okay, there are further concerns. Gilbert says, Prof, can you talk about the hypothesis and summary of the literature review? And there's somebody who has joined with Galaxy A20.
Emmanuel, Dr. Tamanja.
Yes.
Please, has Prof finished with the conceptual and theoretical framework?
Yes.
Prof.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you through with the conceptual and the theoretical framework?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I think details will also be given when we have a session on literature review.
Yes,
Okay.
but we need to ensure that the guidelines in the graduate book also specifies where it is placed, so that students know about it. They don't put it anywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Any other questions that?
Yes, there are some other concerns. Somebody, please, in developing your questionnaire, do we have a minimum number of items to be included in the statement column? Thanks. And then Asari says that we are grateful, Prof. God bless you. Then Gilbert says, will there be the need for research instrument when dealing with secondary data?
That's a very simple one. Because it is secondary data, it is secondary. That is not the major source. Secondary is secondary. There's no questionnaire for that. You can always obtain second hand because it is secondary.
Dako says that, please, can you throw some light on ontological and epistemological perspectives? Thank you.
But you didn't talk about that. So why?
No.
That is for your research methodology.
Yeah,
yes.
So those ones can.
It goes outside my terms of reference.
You're right. You are right.
Yes.
So, Prof, another Francis wants to know if you can merge interpretation of results with discussion of findings at chapter 4.
Yes, I said that some people, in my university, we say that they should be merged because as one is reading the interpretation, it becomes very handy or very convenient for one to see how the individual reacted to such findings. Because when you put the discussion into another chapter, even the student himself will have problem of going forth and backward. But if discussion is written as the results are being presented, for the convenience of the student, my graduate school recommended. But until 2 years ago, we were having discussion as a separate page. A separate chapter. But like I said, it is what the graduate school had decided that will be accepted, will be adopted.
Okay, that's good. So
there's no hard and fast rule about it.
So George, once again, we can clarify things to the students.
Yes, please. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Yes, in the graduate school handbook, the book has outlined what goes under chapter 1, starting from background to the study, statement of the problem, objectives, and the rest. And all these things are outlined. If you go down to page 15 of the School of Graduate Studies, from page 15 of the School of Graduate Studies Handbook, what goes under each chapter are all outlined there up to page 18. Pages 15 to 18 have what goes under each chapter in the book.
Okay.
So my dear students,
Yeah.
if you go back to the thesis or dissertation project handbook of University of Education, pages 15 to 18 tells you the house style that UW has.
Good.
Am I a little clear?
Yeah, so that is a discussion, a separate chapter, or merged with a previous chapter? That is the result.
Chapter 5 has discussion.
Okay.
Yes. And chapter 4, results and findings.
Okay. So that's fine.
Yes.
Separate.
Yes.
Okay.
Please, am I clear?
No, it's very clear. Yeah,
Yes.
the students, they can hear you.
Chapter 5 has discussion, and chapter 4 has results and findings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Prof, there are some other concerns. Somebody wants to know. Thank you very much, Prof, for the wonderful presentation. Please, I want to ask that if one has chosen to do a desk research, and the individual decide to conduct some few interviews, not as a methodological approach, but to enhance more understanding of the information already discovered.
Yeah, that's a very brilliant idea, because you can have a questionnaire followed with some interviews to corroborate what the questionnaire has found out. It's a very brilliant idea, and it is allowed. It makes the study very robust, and there's no harm in that.
Okay. Another one says, Prof, please, is it compulsory to write hypothesis for every research question? If you
Not
happen,
at all.
If you happen to deal with 4 research questions.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. Then Amos says, how effectively can one establish the reliability and validity of an instrument apart from giving it to your supervisor to go through and pilot testing it?
Now, what I'm saying is, now let's talk about validity. When you say you've given your work to an expert to look at, in the report, let us know what was done. I wish I were there. I wish it was one-on-one thing in a classroom. I'll give them my own PhD thesis from UK. My validity, because I was doing a study in UK, but the subject was about Nigeria, I brought a questionnaire home to Nigeria. I gave the questionnaire to 5 eminent professors and gave them a guideline and said for each of the questions, please rate each of the questions along the following.
Exactly.
1 for excellent, 5 for very poor. And on the basis of that, for each questionnaire, there's a column and say, please comment. If you say this item is 3, why did you give it 3? Write it down. After I have collected these opinions from 5 eminent professors in the field, I now sat down, because I had already had a decision, number 1, that any questionnaire that is scored above 3, out. So any questionnaire that had 4 or 5, that is poor and very poor, out. Questionnaire that have 1, 2, 3 considered. Now I looked at the comments that they made. Oh, the item this, remove this word or that. And I put these things in the appendix. So when I said I gave them to experts, what did experts do with the work? What I'm trying to say is that many students hit themselves. Many students cut corners and say, I gave my work to experts. What did the expert do?
I don't see the evidence.
Okay.
There must be evidence. There must be evidence. Then
Okay.
when you say you do, excuse me, please. When you say you do test and retest, the statistical instrument for analyzing test retest is different from the one for split half. Many of our students don't know the difference between split half method and test retest method.
Mhm.
And the statistical instrument to use for both of them are different, but they mix them up. That's why I said, let them meet their lecturer in statistics to tell them, because they tell you the reliability is different from reliability coefficient. They don't know this. Those who are listening to me, can they easily tell me the difference between test retest and the split half method and which statistic to use for them? I'm sure that the lecturer in research methods will put them through. They must insist on that.
Okay. So, Prof, there's a concern here. Gilbert wants to know, when dealing with policy evaluation or performance as your topic, can you include the policy in the literature review? And then Asari wants to know, this, Prof, please, is it acceptable to hire an expert to help in the analysis of your work?
It is permissible to have an expert to help you in the analysis, but you must understand what the expert has done.
Exactly.
Because the work is yours. You must understand what he has done. And when you are asked questions, you don't tell the examiner, oh, an expert did it for me. I don't know what he did. You must understand what he did.
Okay,
Now I'm talking about policies. I forgot to mention, much of what we call thesis writing are technical reports. There are certain things that don't belong to the realm of thesis. Some of them are technical, things that are commissioned. Some of them are mere case studies. And when you are doing certain things, what are you doing? If you are doing a review of a policy, something, it's a technical work. It's technical. You are contributing nothing to knowledge. And for those of you who accept them as PhD thesis, so be it. I'm not the one to judge. But they do not belong to PhD thesis. But they are very good work, very good essential work. But they are not thesis. It's work already done. And you have to review it. You are reviewing something. A review is not a thesis.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to ask?
Yes, there are some few. Charles wants to know, says, please throw some light on problem statements. What should be contained in a problem statement? Some students find it difficult crafting a good statement of problem. And then another person says, please, with respect to the population of the study, is it very important to know the geographical characteristics, their culture, and occupation among the people?
Let me answer that first, lest I forget. If you are writing in Ghana for Ghanaians, why are you telling them the characteristics of the culture and so on? If you are writing for Universe, then they will know the culture in order for them to understand what you are writing about. If, for example, UNESCO is writing a book or is writing a technical paper, that's why I say technical papers are not research papers. If UNESCO invites you to come and there's this book they want to talk about, so book for the disadvantaged children, and you want to write about the case of Ghana, which is a chapter in that book, and that book is meant for the world, people will want to know who is Ghana. Is Ghana a human being or a country? Where is Ghana situated? What is their culture? And so on. People should know the background of the area you are talking about. But when you are writing a thesis locally, I had a discussion, even in my own university. When I was the dean of postgraduate studies, I refused. I told them, you're wasting time. But if you're writing a paper and the journal is being published in Harvard, they don't know about Nigeria. You give them a little bit of information about where this paper is coming from. So it depends on who the audience is to know whether you are talking about the culture and so on. It depends on who the audience of your write-up is meant, so that you'll be at home in understanding what you are talking about. The first question, I've forgotten, problem statement. Problem statement is a statement of what has made you to undertake this study. What is it you have noticed? What is the gap that you have noticed, but you do not have answer to explain why that thing is happening, for which you want now to undertake this study to unravel the problem? That is problem statement. In other words, you are taking a topic. This topic you are taking, what is it that made you think that it is important? What has happened? What is happening in the system that makes you think it possible to inform the practitioners better? There is no method and say include A, B, C. It depends on the problem you are looking at. I wish those who are asking questions have attended one or two lectures I gave in Winneba, where I gave them my life history. When I was doing a master's degree program, I even mentioned it here, but I don't want to go to details. But this is now in the air. I don't like being particular, but I chose. Okay, look at my PhD satisfaction. My PhD thesis was satisfaction. Why did I decide to take job satisfaction? What is the problem of statement? My problem of statement, it was observed that teachers, when they finish, when they graduate, and they're employed, they are placed on a salary level. In our own, we call it grade. Salary grade 8. And a colleague of the same lecturer or teacher who goes into the civil service is also placed on level 8. And if he goes into the police force, he is placed on level 8. If he goes into customs, he is placed on level 8, or public service. Graduate, a young graduate, they all start on level 8. Why is it that teachers complain more than these other colleagues of theirs? Why are they always rebelling? Is there something else that is bothering them that other people get that they do not get? If they are on the same salary, then they should all be happy with their jobs like the other people. What is special about it? That's a problem statement. And in my own case, I also had to compare it with workers in the oil industry and in the building industry. those who are in the private sector, to go and find out their level of satisfaction with their jobs and why. What do they get? What do teachers get? And at the end, I came up with my conclusions and so on. That's an example of what can be in a problem statement. First of all, you have to be agitated. Number two, you have to be involved. Number three, you want to find an answer to that problem. And I guess if I tell you my findings in my PhD, which I did in 1980, that problem has not been solved. My recommendations, each time I take up my PhD thesis and I laugh, the recommendations there are what people are still talking about government should do, which they have not done. And each time people talk, when I'm invited on the radio or television, I say, please go and see my PhD thesis. I said this in 1980-81. The unfortunate thing is that when you write, even nobody reads Africa.
No.
If you want to save your money, so that if you have money and you want your money to be intact, go and hide it inside your book. The money will be intact because nobody will ever read the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just want to remind the students that in the selection of the topic, this was the first seminar series that we gave. That's a week ago. You know, they should go and read it, and they will get information that will help them.
Good.
You know, you can't leave one and then do the other. You know, it's a series, so you get some information from one and then you move on to the next. Yes, you don't go. Yes, so those things, the students will go back and do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, there are somebody wants to understand, is there a limit as to the number of theories that can be employed in the research? And then Pinto is asking similar that, please, what happens if the theoretical framework does not reflect in your main findings?
There are nothing like theoretical work reflecting in your findings. The theoretical framework guides you. It guides you. It helps you to conceptualize your work. The theoretical framework helps you even in designing your questionnaire.
Exactly.
That theory that you have read, that you have quoted, that is what will inform you, even the type of content you are going to include in your questionnaire. That is the role it plays. It will help you to decide the method you are going to use. Thank you.
Okay, Geoffrey wants to know the difference between purpose of the study and objectives of the study. And then another person wants to, that you didn't talk about the budget and time allocation to the thesis.
No, I thought about time, I talked about funding. I talk about time, I talk about funding, some of the things that must be considered initially. Now, what goes into, what is it again you asked?
The purpose and...
Yeah, purpose and...
the difference between the purpose and objectives.
Let him even consult
the
an
purpose
ordinary...
and
Purpose is what I want to do. Objective is what I want you to benefit from what I am doing. What will be the outcome?
Another person is asking whether it is necessary to have research questions and research hypotheses in the same study, or
yes,
these are alternatives.
Now, a hypothesis can never come from the blues. A hypothesis must be derived from a research question. Please. A hypothesis must be derived from a research question. Now, no, there are some questions that cannot be hypothesized, but there is no hypothesis that is not linked to a question. The question will answer the non-comparative, non-statistical, descriptive statistics. You use the descriptive statistics to answer questions like mean, percentage, standard deviation, and so on. Statistics, hypothesis proves deeper into the question. So you may have more questions than hypotheses, but you cannot have more hypotheses than questions. A hypothesis that is not linked to any question in the study is not a hypothesis. Every hypothesis I want to repeat and I want to assert it until I'm faulted. All hypotheses are derived from research questions. When you ask a research question, there are some of them you will hypothesize. For example, how much of X can be found in Y? Research question. Hypothesis. To what extent does X differ from Y? You cannot answer that in a research question. You cannot answer that even with descriptive statistics. That's why hypothesis and statistical data analysis, quantitative data are aligned. As I said, every hypothesis must be quantified and will be answered using quantitative data analysis. You cannot answer a hypothesis with a qualitative data.
Okay. Somebody wants to also know where do we place research approach in the methodology? And
what does it mean by what does it mean by what does it mean by research approach? Research approach is the method.
Yeah.
What is he talking about? He's only playing with words.
Yeah. Can we bring this to an end? Because I think
so, Prof, and then all participants, I think that we will agree that Prof has done a great job for us today. Prof, we want to thank you for the time you have put in this, especially with the challenges that we have, the technical challenges that we have gone through. Yet you have been able to give us something that can guide us in our studies. We are grateful to you and for the time that you have been able to put in this. And we hope that next time that we come knocking at your door, you won't turn us away. Thank you so much for that. I want to thank also Prof. Kankam for making the time to be with us, especially what you have gone through the very past few days. We are grateful for making time to be with us. And as for Prof. Anna Mamensa, is our, we can't thank him enough.
Oh my God.
No, but I have
yes.
Prof. Njoku for the excellent presentation. Prof, it's been very excellent.
Prof. I'm bowing and I'm trembling here.
Yes. Dr. Tamanja, I will want to add my voice and to identify myself with Iris. to thank Prof. Aloy for the very lucid and insightful presentation. The presentation was down to earth, and we wish such series will continue, because we are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that such presentation and series will equip our graduate students with the needed skills and competencies to approach their research work with confidence and without much anxiety. Prof. Aloy,
my dear.
on behalf of the graduate school, we say a big thank you for the wonderful and insightful presentation. As for Prof. Anama Mensah, he's our almighty daddy, and we can't thank him enough for the wonderful thing he has been doing and continues to do. Prof, we are most grateful to you.
Well,
Thank you. Please allow me to.
And for the participants, the announcement is also that.
Please allow me
For the
to.
participants.
Ima, I think Professor Joku want to say something.
Yes.
Yes, please, I am so humbled by the invitation. After all, there have been many of us who have done our sabbatical in Winneba and other parts of Ghana, and I'm being considered for this event. I really, really want to thank you. I am most humbled. Professor Kankan has been my friend for donkey years. We've known for quite a long time.
Yes.
We, in case you don't know, we are products of Hull University. And when I heard what happened to him from the Vice Chancellor, I felt so bad. Professor Kankam, the good Lord will comfort you.
Thank you, Prof.
Keep you and your family. The organizers, I thank you for bringing me close, even though it is special. SPATIAL. Anna Mensah, Professor Anna Mensah is a guru. I don't know what I call him. He's not just an icon. He's a prodigy. And for me to be in the same seminar with him is an honor. And I will boast and say, you know, that man, we participated in the same seminar. So thank you all for this involvement. I love you, I really do. And when this pandemic gives way and the road is clear, we'll still continue to communicate as friends and brothers. May God bless you for honoring me.
Okay. May God bless you also. You know, you deserve all the blessings, and we thank you for your contribution to UEW. You're making it strong, and we believe that the students who are participating in this program are going to be stronger, you know, in thesis writing than their predecessors, and they will finish on time. You know, so thank you for your contribution. Thank you.